Hey sixth graders, this is the video for lesson 2 day 2, and we are going to explore finding rates and unit rates from ratios, and we're going to talk about it by using a double number line. So remember, when you are watching a video, you should your book should be on page 12 and 13. You should be following the directions from the video, doing the problems with the video. If I say pause it and do a problem, pause the video, do the problem. So follow all those directions so that you can learn the most from it. So we are going to start by looking over the top, and then I'm going to give you a job. So up at the top, remember, we're exploring unit rates from yesterday. It says a double number line can be used to find rate and unit rate. And it says a car can travel 300 miles on 10 gallons of gas. The ratio is 300 miles to 10 gallons. So remember, ratios can compare any two amounts. So 300 miles to 10 gallons. Now notice you will see that ratio right here in the double number line. All right, so now here is your job. Your job is to take a look. You're going to pause the video. And you're going to look at the double number line, take a look at it, and I want you to answer all of the questions on this page only, so number 2 through 7. So go through the questions. If you're not sure, put your best guess down because you can correct it after you're done. If you're wrong, so what, as long as you try. All right, so pause the video, do 2 through 7, and as soon as you're done, I want you to restart the video and be ready to make corrections. Go ahead. All right, it is time to go over and see what you just did. So in number 2, let me clean this up here. It says, what do the 300 and the 10 in the diagram represent? So here's the 300 and the 10. So if you look over here, there's labels, miles and gallons. So what they represent is 300 miles for every 10 gallons of gas. Okay? Now, you don't need to have the exact words that I do, but you need to have the idea. So 300 miles for every 10 gallons of gas. Number 3, how many gallons does each section along the number line, bottom of the number line, represent? Fill in the remaining numbers on the bottom. So when I look down at the bottom, I see 0, 1. I'm thinking it's going to be counting by 1, so I'm thinking it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So each number section along the bottom of the number line represents 1 gallon. Okay, remember, you can pause the video at any time to make corrections, or if you need more time. All right, so the next question, number 4, says, look at the corresponding pairs of numbers on the bottom and top of the number lines. Write a multiplication sentence to show how 10 gallons and 300 miles are related, how are 5 gallons and 150 miles related, and how are 1 gallon and 30 miles related. So notice they are giving us the pairs right here, and we need a multiplication sentence. So I notice to go from 10 to 30, that 10 times 30 equals 300. Okay. I also notice that if I go down to the 1 and the 30, that if I multiply 1 times 30, I get 30. And even in the middle one, the 5 and the 150, I notice that 5 times 30 is also 150. So they're my multiplication problems. So remember, pause if you didn't have them all. And number 5 says, use words to describe the relationship between the number of miles and each corresponding number of gallons. So notice with those 3 multiplication problems that all I did is I multiplied the gallons by 30 to get the number of miles. So when I use words, I'm just going to basically write that in words. I'm going to say, you multiply the number of gallons by 30 to get the number of miles. Remember, you do not need to have those exact words, but you should have the idea. You should just be saying that you're multiplying the number of gallons by 30. Number 6 says, fill in the remaining numbers on the number line. What is the rate of miles per gallon for this car? So let's go up here, and let's first fill in the remaining numbers. Now, there's going to be 2 ways you can do this. Here is way 1. So the first way is, remember how we multiply the number of gallons by 30? So I can just keep doing that. So 1 times 30 is 30. 2 times 30 is 60. 3 times 30 is 90, etc. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it, let me erase those arrows, is if you see that, if you notice going across, the number of miles increases by 30. So we have 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. So you can do either way to figure out the next one. So I know 6 times 30. Now, do you guys know the trick to do 6 times 30 mentally? If you know 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 30 is 180. You just add that 0. Okay? So 6 times 30 is 180. 7 times 30 is 210. 8 times 30 is 240. 9 times 30 is 270. And 10 times 30 is 300. All right, so make sure you have those numbers filled in correctly. And let's go down and answer the rest of question number 6. What is the rate of miles per gallon for this car? Now remember, in a rate, the second number must be a 1. So it's going to be miles. We want to know how many miles per gallon, or per 1 gallon. To be a rate, that has to be a 1. So I'm just going to go up and I'm going to find my rate right here. Now, if you do a double number line, rates are really easy to find because it's the one where the second number is a 1. So our rate is going to be 30 miles per 1 gallon. Now, by the way, you could also write that 30 mpg. That's an abbreviation for miles per gallon. And number 7 says, what is the unit rate of miles per gallon? Now remember, unit rate is where you just take that number with the 1, the 30. So our unit rate is going to be 30 miles. That's how far you can go on 1 gallon of gas. All right, so if you made any mistakes, remember, that is okay. You pause it, you correct them, and restart the video. But now we are going to go on to page 13. So here's what I want you to do next. Let's see how I want you to do this. I want you to work on, try 8 through 11 on your own. So pause the video while you're doing those, and when you're done, you can restart the video and make any corrections. Now remember, if you make a mistake, no biggie, you'll be able to fix it. If you aren't sure, give it your best shot. Now I will tell you, these are asking you, when it says what are the pattern, these are supposed to be sentences, so don't just write 1 or 2 words. If you see a blank like in number 10, you can probably, right here, just write a couple words. All right, so I want to see some effort here. Pause it, do these 4 problems, restart it when you're done. Go. All right, let's see how you did. Number 8 says, look at the model on the previous page. What pattern do you see in the number of miles? Okay, so I don't have to scroll back and forth. I just added right here the diagram from the other page. So the question wants to know, what pattern do I see in the number of miles? So let's take a look at the number of miles. So remember, we were going from 0, 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, etc. Okay, I notice that the miles are increasing by 30. Okay, now for the second part, what pattern do you see in the number of gallons? Now the gallons, remember, we're just going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the gallons are increasing by 1 gallon. Okay, so remember, you don't need to have those exact words, but that's basically what it's looking for. If you had it, give yourself a C. Now let's go on to number 9. Okay, so number 9 says, now look at the corresponding numbers of miles and gallons. Describe the pattern. So when they're looking at the corresponding number of miles and gallons, so we're looking at going, what's going on when we're looking at the pairs of numbers. So we already kind of answered this on the previous page. So basically we're going to say the gallons, or each number of gallons, is multiplied by 30 to get the miles. Okay, so that's all they're looking for there. So if you have something similar, you're good to go. If not, take a second to pause and make a correction. All right, so let's go on to number 10. Okay, so number 10 says, write the ratio given in the problem. All right, now remember in the problem, if I go back to the previous page, that ratio was given here somewhere at the very top. I'm going to circle it in green. Car can travel 300 miles on 10 gallons of gas. So that's the ratio. So the ratio was 300 to 10. Now it says divide both quantities in the ratio by the second quantity in the ratio and write a new ratio. So that's one of those sentences you have to break down. Write both quantities, or I'm sorry, divide both quantities in the ratio by the second quantity. So the second quantity is 10, right? So I'm going to divide both quantities by 10. And then write the new ratio. So the new ratio, if you guys know the trick to divide a number by 10 is just get rid of the 0, right? So 300 divided by 10 is 30. And 10 divided by 10 is 1. So my new ratio is 30 to 1. And it says, what is this ratio called? Now, do you remember what you call a ratio where the second number is a 1? Okay, so this is called a rate. So the new ratio is 30 to 1. We would say, this is called a rate. Now, did you explain? I'm just going to say, because the second quantity is a 1. Okay, that's all a rate is. All right, so take a second if you need to pause the video to correct that, or if you left out a part, that's okay. So let's get ready for number 11. Okay, so number 11 says, look at your answer to problem 10. How can you find the related rate for a ratio? So they are asking, if you are going, for example, we went from 300 to 10, and we went to 30 to 1. Okay, so they're asking, how can you find that rate for any ratio? Well, did you figure it out? If you just divide a ratio by that second amount, remember how we divided by 10? You will always get the related rate. So all you had to say for this one, I'm going to erase that work. Okay, how can you find the related rate? All you do is just, let me get the pen turned on. Just divide both numbers in a ratio by the second number. That will always get you the related rate. Okay, so take a second. You can pause this and make any corrections that you need to. All right, so by now you should be done with up through number 11. Make any corrections, and I'm hoping you're seeing there's a big point This number 11, just divide both numbers in a ratio by the second number is how you get a rate. Now, for 12 and 13, to finish off this lesson, we're going to do 12 together, and then I'm going to have you try 13 on your own. Are you ready? So follow along with 12 with me. Please pay attention. If you're zoning out and staring off into space, you're not going to understand it. So 12 says a 10-pound box of apples costs $12.50. Write the ratio of cost to number of pounds as a fraction. Then find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 1. Write the rate and unit rate to describe the cost of apples. All right, so this is one of those problems that's asking you to do a lot. So the trick to these is just break them down one sentence at a time. So let's start. I'm going to underline the first sentence in red. A 10-pound box of apples cost $12.50. Okay. The next sentence in blue. Write the ratio of cost to number of pounds as a fraction. So it's got to be the cost to the number of pounds. So I'm going to start with that. The cost is $12.50. Or I'm sorry, yeah, $12.50 to the number of pounds for a 10-pound box. So that's my rate as a fraction. Then, let's underline the next sentence in green. Then find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 1. So, to find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 1. Remember what we did in number 11? You just divide whatever that second number is, divide by 10. Divide both quantities by 10. Okay, so now 10 divided by 10 will always get you 1, which is kind of cool. Now 1250 divided by 10, you can type that in a calculator. You are allowed to use a calculator for this. But if you guys know the trick, if you just move that decimal once to the left, that's how you divide by 10. I didn't know if you knew that or not. But 1250 divided by 10 is 1.25. So it's $1.25 for 1 pound of apples. Now the last sentence, which I'll underline in this cool aqua color, write the rate and unit rate to describe the cost of apples. So we kind of already have the rate in red, but the rate is going to be, it's $1.25 per pound. Okay, that's my rate. I'm just going to label that with an arrow. Okay, my unit rate, remember, is just the number without the 1. The unit rate is $1.25. So that's my unit rate. All right, so if you need to pause the video to get caught up, you can. But now, your job is to do number 13. Remember, in number 12, each sentence was kind of asking us to do a different thing, so we had to do each sentence one part at a time. So you may have to do that for 13. Pause the video, do number 13 by yourself, restart it when you're done. Go. Okay, so here's what 13 said. Let's see how you did. A driver traveled 260 miles on a highway for 4 hours, driving at the same speed for the whole trip. Write the ratio of miles to hours. So the ratio was 260 miles for 4 hours. I'm going to write it as a fraction. Then use what you know about equivalent fractions to write a related rate and unit rate. Now, did you remember to get, so I'm going to label this down here. This is our ratio. So to change that to our rate, remember, to get a rate, we need that bottom number to be a 1. So the trick is whatever this second number is, this time it's a 4, right? You divide by that number. So divide by 4. Divide by 4. And 260 divided by 4 is 65. And yes, you could use calculators. Okay, so that's our rate. Now to get the unit rate is just the number without the 1. So the unit rate is going to be 65, I'm going to put a label, miles. All right, so here is my rate, here is my unit rate. If you had that correct, give yourself a big fat C because you are done with today's video lesson. All right, guys and gals, thanks for watching.